I want to bring in now Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, Democrat of Illinois, who serves on both of the relevant House committees here, the Intelligence Committee and the Committee on Oversight and Reform. Congressman, thanks for joining us on this. Let's talk first about the ODNI review of the documents that were seized from Mar-a-Lago. And I want to read the statement from Congresswoman Maloney and Congressman Schiff, both chairs of the committees that you serve on, in reaction to this review, saying this: the DOJ affidavit, partially unsealed yesterday, affirms our grave concern that among the documents stored at Mar-a-Lago were those that could endanger human sources. It is critical that the IC move swiftly to assess and, if necessary, to mitigate the damage done, a process that should proceed in parallel with DOJ's criminal investigation. What could come of this review, Congressman? And is it likely that you will be privy to some of the documents that were, in fact, seized?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very possible. I think that following this review of hundreds of classified documents, the Director of National Intelligence will likely brief us in a classified setting at the Capitol to talk about what she found and her team found, what they're doing to mitigate this damage and how to prevent it from happening again. I think that the most kind of startling aspect of these hundreds of documents is the ones that do reveal information potentially about clandestine sources, also about signals intelligence. That's the monitoring of electronic communications of our adversaries. That type of information is extremely sensitive. And just so you know, we never review that information anywhere except in a secure compartmented information facility, a SCIF, underneath the U.S. Capitol with armed guards.
With the possible appointment of a special master, as we're hearing now from Judge Aileen Cannon, the decision to be made on Thursday, are you worried if that happens, it will slow the review process?
No, I don't. I'm not concerned about that. I think that it's possibly appropriate for this special master to safeguard any information that belongs to Donald Trump that others should not necessarily get a hold of or view for purposes of national security. I think that the DOJ will be able to do its job and the special master can do their job concurrently.
Congressman, do you expect either one of your committees to hold hearings on what has taken place at Mar-a-Lago, either the timeline leading up to the seizure and or the documents that were seized? And if so, do you think that would require testimony from the former president?
Okay, it's a good question. I think with regard to a lot of these issues, if we do hold any hearings, they're probably going to be in a classified setting. I don't know if Donald Trump would be involved, but certainly I think there would be at the least classified briefings, if not more.
Let's switch gears for a moment here, Congressman, while I have you, of course, because we have so many things going on, and I want to talk quickly about student loan forgiveness as well, and your reaction. One of your colleagues, Ohio Democrat Tim Ryan, speaking out, and I want to play for you a little bit of what he had to say, and then we'll talk on the other side.
There are a lot of people hurting in our society right now. People are getting crushed with inflation, crushed with gas prices, food prices, and all the rest. And I think a targeted approach right now really does send the wrong message. There's a lot of people out there making 30, 40 grand a year that didn't go to college, and they need help as well.
Congressman, what do you make of his view on that?
I share his concerns. I have three concerns, actually. One is we address in this particular proposal, or the president addressed in this proposal, student debt, but we didn't address in this proposal the cost of college. I actually have legislation which would bring more information to the table and allow for more competition so that we can bring down the price of college, which I think is really important. Secondly, we are not really focused as much on skills-based and vocational education for the 2/3 of Americans who don't have a four-year college degree. Again, that's something that's been the subject of my career, and many of my constituents are concerned about that. And then third, for those who paid off their college debts, what are we doing for them? I think that's really important that we continue to incentivize that. And so I think that with these, if we don't address these concerns, we're not really addressing the whole picture.